Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Checked Before. This time, reunion. Yeah, we're all together. We're all back together. Another place we can all get back together. Patreon.com/IABD. Support the network. Support this show, IABTB. But Patreon.com/IABD, because then you get the bonus benefits of also everything IABD. The Radio Hour. If you dig us, you got to dig the Radio Hour. And if you're not, I don't know why you're here. Go check out the Radio Hour. Come back here and we'll have a reunion. On this episode, reunion of It's All Been Checked Before.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trekked Before. Your regular crew is here.
This is Steven.
And Keith.
Jimmy-Jerome. And we are here to talk about the episode Reunion. First impressions.
I feel like I don't want to give too much away, but I really, really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
And I think I remembered what the big reveal was supposed to be. Luckily, that happened pretty early on in the episode, before the code or during the cold open even. But beyond that, there was so much I'd forgotten about. First of all, how it tied into the rest of the series. The early things we'd seen with these characters, and the stakes. I did not realize some of the things that were going to happen, or I had forgotten. So those were some potent surprises.
I remembered the two big twists, the one at the beginning and the one towards the end, but that did not lessen their impact. I feel like every year we get a one really good Klingon episode, and this was this year's. We talked about during our recap of season 3 that for season 2 and season 3, our second place finisher was a big Klingon episode. I could see this being relatively high this season as well, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I've come a long way with the Klingons, obviously, through we'll go through almost 3.5 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to echo Keith, I felt the same way. I liked the callbacks to earlier stuff, because then we've talked ad nauseum about that this isn't a serial show, but these are not things that are starting to happen and accumulate. I have some issues and things I'm still wrestling with, but maybe you guys can talk me through them. And
Sure.
And it's not even necessarily things I'm not. My thing is, I'm not sure I dislike it as a storytelling thing or just dislike it in general. But we'll get to that. We'll get to all that.
Grief counselors will be provided.
Exactly.
We do actually have a second big Klingon episode this season coming up in the season finale, but we'll get to that in a few months. Beginning of the episode, Worf's reaction to being asked to receive Kalar was pretty good. Obviously, they used it to talk about his dishonor, his series arc, but we also got to see another side of Worf, because he's usually not a coward, and this was almost cowardly, which I feel like is why Picard gave him the tough love. It also made me think that they may have been in contact for a while. Like, I feel like Worf and Kalar have been talking since this happened, but maybe not since his dishonor. Like, maybe they were pen pals for a bit after her first visit to the Enterprise, and now he's been waiting. Now he's been ashamed to see her again.
It didn't feel that way to me. It felt like they had that, the rejected proposal, and that was it. It didn't seem like the sort of I think there had been too much pride for them to be chatting at that point, and she was avoiding telling him about the pregnancy.
Yeah, she definitely avoided him that, but just the way their argument a couple scenes in played out, it just felt like there was so much more history there than that one episode would have explained. And maybe that was the depth of what happened in that episode, and I'm reading too much into it, or maybe there should have been more development and it wasn't earned, but I don't know. It felt like they had quite a history.
See, I mean, my thinking on that, I think the reason why that, the way the silence was hanging there in the elevator, for example, that was very much, we haven't talked in so long. I'm not going to be the first one to break that silence. I'm going to, the look on her face was just that kind of, it's like leaning into the awkwardness of the situation. It's like, what do you say to somebody who you didn't talk to since that one night stand? And it was just, just all pride at that point.
I wrote down the transporter chief. She's not O'Brien.
No, and actually, I thought that in my head. I was like, that's not O'Brien.
I mean, I just wrote down she's not O'Brien, but who it is April Grace, who plays transport technician Hubble. And she'll actually be in 5 episodes of Next Gen as this character and 1 episode of DS9 as this character. Huh. So she's a minor reoccurring character, probably I guess, O'Brien's replacement when he's off shift or whatever. I liked her. Had Kalar not been in this episode, she might have made my crush. I was tempted.
I thought initially the child thing might be a red herring. Obviously, that was wrong. But at first, I thought that was just like hey, here's the thing, and then it was going to be revealed later that it wasn't his or something like that. I mean, I'm glad it wasn't. I think, but initially, I was thinking that's what was up.
Huh.
My first note for that cold open was Worf does a paternity take. The kind of like, huh? What? There's a child there, and that unspoken thing between them and the audience. You know what he's thinking, and we're all wondering the same thing. Which is why the comedy of that elevator scene was just that kind of. You look as if there's a question that you would like to ask, and just that whole thing just.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, I guess I didn't. I would have been surprised that Kalar been lying because she doesn't seem like the lying type to me. But also, I'm very familiar with the character of Alexander. 4 actors play him over TNG and DS9. He comes back a bunch of times. So
I didn't think she was lying. I just thought if anything, she was being playful in some way or coy or coquettish the coquettish isn't right, but coy might not be exactly right, but playful in some way. Or she was dancing around what the actual truth was, but she wasn't. She was just being straight.
This Alexander was played by John Paul Stour, who's best known for playing the son on Grace Under Fire and also the movie Little Giants. But this is the only time he'll play Alexander.
And he's the worst of the bunch. Is what Steve was about to say.
No, if you read down at his Wikipedia page, it's another one of these child actors that was on TNG and I guess you could just say child actors, but specifically TNG, we've had a couple that did not live long. I think he might have committed suicide.
Oh, God.
Really?
I think so.
I'm not aware of that. That sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, he died. Well, he died in 2018 at the age of 33.
Yeah, I think it was. He got into cooking. Got into cooking makes it sound like he liked to have friends over. He was a chef and ran a restaurant and stuff. And I didn't get into details. I don't know if there was a money issue, but he was really fairly successful at it for a while. But yeah, I think at 33, I think he killed himself.
Wow.
So yeah, sad news. That's when I'm like, oh, I'm sorry I delved into this guy. I guess I shouldn't say I'm sorry. I'm sorry that the guy's passed away. That's what I'm sorry about. But.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah.
I just realized as we were talking about what he did, we didn't mention what else April Grace has acted in. The Transport Chief. She's best known for Magnolia, I Am Legend, Artificial Intelligence, The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2, the final film. She's got quite a few movie credits.
Wow.
She's a good working actress.
Now I have to look up does it say what she played in Magnolia? Not that I may remember it in the 3-hour movie.
Yeah, she played Guinevere? I'm not sure. She was Dr. Aurelius in The Hunger Games. Yeah, I don't know. She's not near the top of the cast list on Magnolia. Yeah. But she's got over 100 credits. So steady working actress anyway. I thought it was odd that we learned Kempek's death happened in voiceover. Like, Kempek's a reoccurring... I mean, not a reoccurring. I guess he is because he's in this episode. Well, they got the actor back to play his dead body, which I thought was kind of great, even though it was just one quiet scene where he just laid there. But I don't know. To me, I feel like I would have wanted to see more of Kempek, maybe like the scene where he was poisoned as like a prologue,
right?
Instead of just learning off screen that he's dead.
Before we get to that, there are a couple of things that we kind of jumped over.
Okay.
One quick little thing. I got excited when Kalar mentioned the Tholians of web fame, I'm guessing.
Sure.
Yeah. So have we ever seen what they look like?
In the original series on the view screen.
Yeah.
They're kind of crystalline.
Oh.
That's right.
They're not carbon-based.
So real quick, I did find the character that she played, April Grace. It's actually a fairly big character in it. If you guys remember the Tom Cruise character in that movie.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay. She's the one who interviews him, and it's actually a really good scene. She's really tough in it and really good in it. And he's a a-hole. in that scene. Not Tom Cruise, his character is an a-hole. Sorry. Back to where you were talking about.
Well, the next thing, the Kinpeck scene where he's actually talking to Picard. First of all, Picard, I don't think I wrote this down, but I loved him so much in this episode. Just everything he was doing in this, just every scene. So in this conversation, there's just something about Kinpeck's personality. Well, maybe it's more like a Klingon trait, but just the offhandedness with which he's talking about having been poisoned, and he gestures with the cup as if here's more poison right here, poison. I don't know if that was intentional or just kind of or if he actually was drinking more poison because he didn't care at that point.
Or to speed it up. I forgot about that scene. I, for a second, just remembered him playing a dead body in this episode.
Oh, okay.
That makes a little more sense of him being it, because they did get Charles Cooper back and put him back in the makeup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it was a great scene. And it seems like a fitting end to even just kind of offhandedly say it happened, because it was sort of like the way he was presenting himself. Mm-hmm. This is the important thing. I want to accomplish this before I go. The rest is, I don't care. I'm dead. It's gonna happen. Whatever. So, and
he's the one who asked Picard to oversee this thing, right? Which I thought I thought it was an unfair ask, and I was just like, this feels like a really false construct all of a sudden. But I think it turned out interesting. Yeah, I mean, it was. I thought it eventually made sense to me, and it definitely made it interesting. And I didn't feel false to me after that, but initially I felt that way. What kind of parameters are we setting?
I can see why it might seem like a stretch at first, but where I thought it was fine was because his two top political rivals that would succeed him are both implicated in poisoning him. Right. So you don't want to go, and all the Klingons in the Klingon Empire have reason to be loyal to one or the other. So it's hard to pick a non-biased objective Klingon. And he just had this dealing with Picard, where Picard was not only fair, but was discreet when needed to be. Yeah. Trustworthy. I mean, the Worf situation could have destroyed the whole empire. And Picard handled that so delicately because his diplomatic skills are amazing. It does make sense to me that that's where he would go. Yeah, I still think it's unfair of him to put that on Picard, but it is logical. Sure. I also thought, and you kind of just touched on this, and this is something that, whether fairly or unfairly, happens a lot in this country. These are the two best people they can come up with in the entire Empire from the council? No, not at all. And I was thinking about this because you haven't even seen Gowron's story. Gowron, who's played by Robert O'Reilly, who we did already see in an earlier season 2 episode of Next Gen. He played in the Dixon Hill holodeck program when Loxana was there. Yeah. He played Scarface. But he plays Gowron for 4 episodes of Next Gen and 7 episodes of DS9. So he's going to be around a while. And he is a terrible politician as well. Just like Duras, who they're both unethical. They're both politicians. But I feel like when you look at who rises to the top of the U.S. government on either party, they're often not great people and the politicians. Not always. But
as you see here from my background, I took that screenshot because that scene just killed me when they were doing the negotiations, and just one of my next notes, or at least my next note would have been, "I love Gowron," but I had the taunting of Duras. But before that, I had to write in, of course, that Klingons are known for their logic. The logic aliens. I wouldn't even made that comment before about the Picard being the logical choice. But anyway, Gowron. I just one of the reasons why I like this episode that I didn't mention is just that I was riveted the entire time. Just like all the characters were so charismatic, and he was a big part of that too. Yeah. Just the way that you already want to hate Duras anyway. And even if you don't like Gowron, you're not really supposed to like him. It's great to have somebody that kind of foil up against Duras, like two people you hate just ripping into each other.
Well, Gowron, I feel like we were primed to like Gowron and assume that Duras was guilty because of what happened. But there was a part during this episode where Gowron's trying to bribe Kalar, and you start to think, hey, he might have done it too. Like, either one of these guys could be the guilty party. Are we going to be surprised that Duras, who we hated, is not the poisoner? That could have been. That was a distinct possibility.
Well, yeah, there was that veiled threat, or thinly veiled, if that threat. The same thing that happened to Kinpack could happen to you if you aren't cooperative.
Yep.
Whether or not he actually did it, he was certainly implying that he had. And one of my notes was that the episode would have been far simpler if it was just Duras having been the poisoner, and that was that. You want to assume that and like, oh, okay, this is nice and neat and blah. But I liked that the intrigue where it wasn't really that certain.
Well, I think what we'll explore down the road is essentially Worf and Picard and the Enterprise crew put Gowron in charge of the Klingon Empire. And Gowron, like we said, we saw some shady parts of him in this episode. There's a lot more to explore there. And when you've put that person in charge and you're responsible and they do things that they shouldn't be doing, that does come back to haunt you a bit. And I
that's
feel
when that's when you call in the CIA.
Yeah, no kidding. To send them on an open car parade in Texas.
Okay, so edit that. Sorry, we're just gonna let's just cut. Let's start over.
No, I want the CIA. CIA can come get me. It's fine.
Oh my
I thought
God.
you meant like, send them to a Central American country to do a coup.
Yeah, that too. It's like we put you there. We'll take you out.
Yeah.
But all right, we really should stop saying this.
Right, that's never come back. Iran,
The CIA's crooked.
Afghanistan.
If I disappear,
Ohio.
you will know the CIA got me. If I disappear soon after this episode goes live.
Well, the NSA would have told them, so
It's true.
It's just all.
Now, the NSA could be watching this live, even though we're not broadcasting this, if they've hacked one of our computers.
They're probably a big reason our downloads went up.
Yeah.
They were leaking early.
Or they will go up now.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, theoretically, I don't think they would need to hack our computer. They could just be on Zoom. Essentially, they would probably have some sort of hook or backdoor into all the Zoom broadcasts, and they're just sort of. I can't imagine the manpower involved in doing something like that would just.
As soon as we get off there'll be a CIA post on all of our Facebook feeds. Read nothing into that. I think Gowron in that specifically in that picture behind you, Keith, reminds me of Brack from Space Ghost. With his eyes bugging out and the makeup and everything.
There will be episodes where we get even more bugged out Gowron eyes. Wait for it. That's what he's known for in that role.
It's very evocative.
Yeah. So Klingon kids age really fast.
Yeah.
Well, how old was he?
Too.
So Alexander is roughly a year and a half old by the calendar.
What?
Earth years. Klingons, their planet, the Klingon years are twice as fast as Earth years, but apparently their kids age at least twice as fast as well. They said when they were casting, he should be the equivalent of basically an Earth 5-year-old.
So this was a purposeful choice. It wasn't just, that's interesting.
Well, I think they just didn't think it would be a worthy story to have a 1.5-year-old, which it wouldn't have been.
Well, yeah, but I mean, so that wasn't a canon thing that they were establishing or had already been established?
It had not already been established. I believe it's established now that Klingons age fast and then live a long time. I mean, we see Alexander as an adult in Deep Space Nine. And so to get there, you have to have a accelerated growth pattern.
You
know.
Are we sure he wasn't born on a Genesis planet?
Oh, man.
Alexander is 3/4 Klingon, 1/4 human.
Oh, that's true.
Kaelar's half and half.
That's right.
So maybe his
human
side interact with the Klingon side in such a way that sped up development. I don't know.
He's a cute little Klingon.
He is. I liked him. I mean, this, like I said, this is the only time we'll see this actor play him.
Mm-hmm.
I find he gets annoying in later years a bit, but we'll have plenty of time to explore that.
You mean the character, not the actor?
Right.
The character.
I was curious if we see him again.
There was a discussion apparently behind the scenes. I was reading this to leave him on the Enterprise and make him reoccurring after this episode, but the writers ultimately decided not to. However, in season 5 next year, they decide to bring him back and let him live on the Enterprise, so he'll be
okay. I was assuming that that the ending made me think that was about to happen next episode. He was just going to be there all the time. And I kind of remembered him being around a lot more, but
he's never there all the time. Even once he lives on the ship, we only see him 2 or 3 times a season,
which is
we'll
fine.
See him more often, obviously, once he moves to the ship.
And
he does not move to DS9. His entry in DS9 is a different plot.
Okay.
That seems straight. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Keith.
I was just going to say that I half remembered him being on DS9 suddenly as a child. I'm probably just remembering,
he's
Jake
he's a teenager when he shows up on DS9.
Somehow inserted in my memory that he was like with Jake and Nog and so forth. And but all right. So the only other thing the only other note that I had about the Alexander was that Worf didn't hesitate for a second to let him hold that batleth. Just here you go, give it a few swings. Just thought that was interesting. Sorry, Stephen, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the fact that he comes back helps me with my issue I talked about at the beginning of our episode of dealing with Kalar's death and how it was handled in the episode. Because I think his reaction after it, I think he and Worf to a certain extent, for me, their reactions were kind of left wanting. I didn't like her death scene in two ways. One, I didn't like it because I didn't want to see Kalar go. Two, I'm not sure, and we've talked a lot about death, that, how we would deal with death is almost as important as how we deal with life. You guys can tell I saw the Star Trek 2 and 3 and 4 last week, but, and I know that's important, but I didn't like the scene itself. It didn't seem strong. And I just thought the whole thing made me feel like, and I'm going to go do parallel to Star Trek 3 now, and there's parallel to Star Trek 2 here as well, that I felt like we just got Kalar back, and for me, I didn't feel like we had enough time to get attached to her emotionally. Even though I am attached to her emotionally as a character, I felt like I didn't get a chance to attach emotionally to those two as a couple for me. So, and I think the actors had a tough time because I thought that scene that scene should have punched me in the gut, and it just didn't. And then the kid has a weird reaction, which might not be a weird reaction. That might just be a Klingon reaction. Although I did like Worf doing the Klingon death thing right away. But
yeah, I mean, I agree with you that I wish the death had a little more impact in the episode. Mm-hmm. However, I did feel it. I felt like there was a scene early on in the episode where we saw that Kalar and Worf wanted to be together, and it was really just his honor keeping them apart, that she regretted turning him down, and that they could have been a family.
Yeah, that was a really good scene.
And so, and I think also it's just a credit to Susie Plaxon, who played Kalar, of how much we felt for her after 2 episodes. I get why they killed her, because we needed Worf to murder Duras, because that's a major turning point for Worf's character, that he crosses this line. And you can argue it's a big part of why it takes him so long to be promoted to lieutenant commander after this. It kind of sets back his career a bit, but it's still like, you have to have something that pushed him, and Kalar's death does it.
That also makes me feel better from a future storytelling vantage point with that decision, even though obviously, again, I don't want to not see Kalar, but that also helps with me.
Yeah.
I was going to mention that, my argument about whether or not the scene had enough impact, or, whether we saw her actually die or just the reactions to her dead body being found, calls back to a couple things. One, the missing death scene for Kinpeck, and of course, Klingons being logical. I mean, there are certain parallels between, similarities between Klingons and Vulcans in that sense, the way that they would dissociate certain kinds of emotions we would expect to see from humans, that they would channel these things differently. So I thought that was reflective in what happened there. It wasn't, we infer that there was some sort of struggle. That is an acceptable way for them to die. It's an affront to Worf's honor. It took something away from him. He's not going to shed tears right there necessarily, but you're going to see him internalize it in a certain way and take immediate action. And that was the thing. That was the reaction we needed to see. We need to see him taking responsibility for the son and saying, "This is experience his death. This is how we grieve. Look at this. Remember it." I thought it was appropriate for that. Is a good way to show the otherness of what's going on with the alien cultures too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I thought, while we're on this, I thought there were, just in the whole Kalar Worf thing, a lot of parallels to Kirk finding his son, or finding out he has a son, in that, they have that conversation. It's very much the Carol Marcus Kirk conversation. You had your world, I had mine, and I wanted him in my world. Were you going to be happy here? You knew I wasn't going to go gallivanting around with you. Things are different in this go around, because obviously you've got families on the Enterprise by then. But I thought that was a parallel, and then again I kind of draw that parallel in that we got David, we have this great moment at the end of Wrath of Khan, and then we kill him off in 3, and that's I know we talked about this when we did Star Trek 3, but that I always felt like that was kind of a ripoff, and I think, as you say, as you've kind of explained here, Jimmy, I feel like you're making me feel like this is more of a thing, because I still don't think you have to kill David in Star Trek 3. I don't think we need Kirk already hated Klingons. Do we need his son killed by them for him to hate him more and all that? I still don't like that part of that movie.
You'll have to judge that when you see the culmination of that plot in Star Trek.
Yeah, and maybe I will.
When Worf comes on the bridge from the side entrance, from the turbo lift up near the view screen, as he's walking up the side of the bridge, Duras sees him and calls him out. But when Duras is on the view screen, it's like this much. If you're watching us on video, my hands are like 6 inches each side of my head. It's zoomed in on one person. But apparently when they're watching the Enterprise D bridge, it's the whole bridge.
And there's that a slightly artificial pause where the conversation might have ended and the transmission might have ended long enough for Worf to come on, to enter the bridge to have that scene. But
well, I think the Klingons, that when they set up their cameras or whatever, they're like, why would I want the camera on anyone but me? Whereas since Kirk's left the Enterprise, they've switched it to more of a broader view so they can see everybody on the ship rather than just Kirk. But it's my theory.
K'Ehleyr is really good at her job.
Yeah.
I mean, she is advising Picard masterfully. She is putting the pieces together of what they won't tell her masterfully, which I get why they won't tell her, but I also feel like, it's important for her to know these things and to put those pieces together. Like investigating Duras gets her killed ultimately, but she's just doing a really good job. And she's brave when she confronts Duras.
Yeah. Fearlessly.
I am bothered most in this episode is I don't think Duras could take her.
That was something I had in mind too. That was my thought too.
Have we seen her fight?
Yeah, Worf in the holodeck.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know she's only half Klingon, but we also have seen Duras use his minions because he's not a great fighter, and K'Ehleyr's tough as heck.
Yeah.
So I can only see it needed to be a surprise kill rather than a confrontation.
Yeah, I mean, it's from what we saw of the conversation, she seemed confident she didn't seem like she thought that he was going to attack her. Yeah. And when we came and when we saw the scene of the crime, there was a lot of environment damage. I mean, they could have easily been a trip and fall. I mean, with the table damage,
like she fought back, and it was quite a battle.
Yeah,
that makes me even less certain on how she lost to Duras, because I think she's better. But also, he had to then go through the hallway, bloodied and beat up, because she did some damage on him. Nobody noticed that. Him getting back to his quarters. I mean, him sneaking away from the quarters was a ridiculous, easily distract the guard. But then the whole thing where he somehow killed her and then got back to his quarters without anybody seeing, and then he doesn't even look injured later. I feel like when Worf goes to confront him and murder him, he should look pretty beat up. And we should find out that he had beamed back to his ship from K'Ehleyr's quarters or something.
Maybe.
To make this make a little sense.
To take the blood off too as he went.
And maybe beamed in some help to kill K'Ehleyr.
That's also possible. I wanted to say that my point in bringing that up with the environment damage, anybody can kill anybody else with a lucky hit, trip, anything. It could have been one sucker punch and she was just on the cut through the glass table, and then there was a lot of shards around, which would explain all the blood. So there's that.
But we see people fall through those glass tables all the time, and they're not all cut out. I think it's safety glass.
I thought he just did ransacking afterwards to make it look like a robbery. But I don't think so.
Interesting.
I don't think K'Ehleyr would go out like that either. I don't think she'd go out that easily. I agree with you, Jimmy. And I think I liked your conspiracy. You sound like Costner in JFK when he's like, how could he have done all these things without anyone noticing? Going down the hill I'm not even improvising the names, but it sounded very, very JFK. How
He
could you do
was
all that?
one lucky SOB to get away
Yeah.
with this.
Yeah.
Not a getaway, but you know.
But just to get back to your other point about Kalar, yeah, I wrote Kalar coming in hot, like she comes in ready to go, looking hot, of course, and she and she's also, not only is she like, here's what's going on, here's what I'm doing, she's also zinging everybody left and right too, which is very funny. So I was just like, yeah, that's another reason I was bummed later, but we all were bummed.
My next note on the subject was that Worf must have inherited the batleth from Chekhov. We saw him playing with it earlier, and then it's just like, well, I guess he's going to need it for something.
Yeah. Yep. I thought the scene where Worf demonstrated the batleth to Alexander was a really sweet moment, even though it made me nervous that you're letting this 5-year-old play with this bladed weapon.
Yeah.
The Romulan bomb, that pretty much cinched it up. It was Duras because of the Romulan reveal. Duras having the suicide bomb on his fellow. Can we agree that his soldier that had the suicide bomb probably didn't realize they were suicide bombed?
Right. That makes sense.
You never know.
Yeah.
I think Duras just did it secretly to him.
Duras might do that, I guess.
Yeah.
I thought, I know we just hit this, but I thought it was fishy to be like, well, only the Romulans use that weapon. It's like, well, obviously it's not just the Romulans.
Could have been the Packlids.
It was easy. It was easy. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
When Worf goes to kill Duras, he tosses his badge down and grabs the Batla, which would have been nice. I mean, it made sense and everything, but then when they go to find out where Worf is, they don't say, oh, his comm badge is in his quarters. They say, oh, he beamed over there.
Yeah. I did like it as here's my badge. Yeah. I'm not a cop right now.
I must have been looking at, I didn't catch the badge thing, but that
he tossed it behind him when he left to kill Duras. Like he hesitated and then took it off.
Mm-hmm.
The Klingons let Worf on. Like Duras is Klingons on his ship. So clearly he doesn't have blind loyalty. Some of them were like, he wants right of vengeance. That's a Klingon tradition. Let him beam over.
Yeah.
What does blind loyalty mean for a Klingon anyway? I mean, that's still, do you have to be able to, those are the rules of following someone. So,
well, Duras isn't honorable. He would have never allowed Worf to beam over, I don't think.
Well, no, but I mean,
Klingons that were honorable that let him beam over.
But they're also always undermining, though, too, right? Even if they're loyal. I mean,
maybe
that is one of those.
They don't know. They're not close to Duras. They just know him as the big guy on the ship. You know, they don't know his machinations.
There's another one of those Vulcan Klingon similarity things. So you have the Vulcans that are renowned for their logic and emotionlessness, and they always seem to be reacting emotionally to things. And you have the honor and the Klingons, but it seems to involve honorably being underhanded at any opportunity.
So there are honorable Klingons like Worf, and we'll meet some other ones. But you're right that the politicians that we keep encountering are not, which I think that says more about politicians than it does about Klingons.
Perhaps, yeah.
I also agree with you, Keith, that it's a similar parallel, but I think that just makes the species more complex.
No, I agree. I'm not saying I don't like it. It's still interesting to see.
I mean, humans are egotistic and butt in all the time, but Geordi isn't egotistic and butt in all the time. So
I was thinking about this today, like, because I've said a lot, like, man, I just really don't like the Klingons. And I was like, I think I'm just being xenophobic and racist. Because I was just like, well, why is it? And I was like, you know what? But
I don't like their heads. That's what Steven said. He was like, I don't like the way their ridges look.
Because I was like, well, I just don't like this environment. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't like the Earth people for that same reason. So, I mean, in the future, we get the talk of, we put it away. You guys using the word honorable that much just made me think of Dude, Where's My Car? Where the French man who has Andy Dick held captive keeps saying honorable. And Andy Dick's like, I can't understand. What are you saying? Honorable? It doesn't sound like that. Anyway, that's Dude, Where's My Car?
This isn't the first time you brought that movie. I think I need to add it to our extra.
I still haven't watched it. I need to get around to it, I guess.
Yeah, I did add it to the list. So maybe when we finish this season, we'll talk about it.
Oh my God.
You guys will probably be underwhelmed, but I enjoy it.
It's come up multiple times. Best of both worlds. You talked about it.
That's right.
So when Worf kills Duras, Riker and Data are already over there, but they don't make any move to stop him. They just yell Worf, which you could argue, surprise, they're not sure he's going to do it. But then they make no move to check Duras's body and see if they can render aid or make sure he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
That felt a little less in character.
It makes me think of Willy Wonka when the kid falls in the river. Oh, no. Oh, geez. Somebody stop him. Save him. So I think they were just like, oh, no, that's terrible. I hope somebody does something. Well, okay. I guess not. That's a shame. Book him, Dano. Yeah, I wrote down when Worf does his thing, kind of Death Wish Klingon style. And again, I'm going to just reference 70s movies here. It's very Death Wish that I have to, you killed my wife, I kill you. I also wrote down Godfather. Today I settle all family business, which he did. You killed his mate, upset his kid. And so he settled all family business. Kinda. I guess it's also his dad too, and the dishonor and all that. Or dishonor, discommendation. Is that what they kept calling it?
Yeah. We were talking about the impact of Kalar's death. And another expression of that was when he openly claimed her as his mate.
Yeah.
And of course, claiming Alexander as his son later. It was just this supersedes all those other issues that I was, whatever hesitations he was having about his honor. And to be fair, after Picard confronted him, which is another thing I noted about just how much I love that scene, Picard always seeming to know how to allow Worf to save face in certain situations and just, playing it completely straight, stern, angry. Do you wish to resign? No, I don't. Matters dropped. We're moving on. And he mentioned,
I feel like there should have been a little more there.
Maybe, but he mentioned that, now is a time when, if Duras is dead, what's the point of keeping up the charade?
Yeah.
So that might have informed his decision as well. But nevertheless, when he got over there, it was just, she's my mate.
Yeah.
And it was clear right then, this is what this means. And I love that everybody in the room seemed to understand what had happened.
Well,
including Duras.
Our Klingon cliffhanger coming up this season and the next season is called Redemption, Part 1 and 2.
Huh.
So I don't know if they're going to deal with that. So, yeah, I think we'll get that. Yeah, I liked Picard chewing Worf out. I thought he deserved to be chewed out. A reprimand is the least he could do. I almost kind of think he should have been demoted in that moment or some more concrete punishment besides just a formal reprimand.
And then he would just be like, yeah, it was worth it.
Yeah. They mentioned on this episode that the Enterprise has some 13 species on the ship, which felt like a low number to me. But when I went on Memory Alpha, it lists the species represented, and it only lists 10, which does not count Tasha Yar. I guess, I don't know if she was a human or that was a human colony or if she was something else.
That's a good question.
But the 13 species they mention are, of course, Beta Z, Klingon, El-Orion, which is what Guinan is, Vulcan, because we know Dr. Salar is there, human, of course, and we'll see Booleans, Benzites, Bajorans, Napians, and Android. So that's 10. It doesn't list the other 3. So I guess even though 13 seems low, we don't actually see more than 13 species serve on the Enterprise in 7 seasons, which makes me sad.
Did you say Andorian?
No.
Okay.
I don't think we see Andorians serve on the...
I was just going to say, I bet one of those other 3 is an Andorian.
I mean, Andorians and Tellarites are the other 2 founding members with Earth and Vulcan, so they should be represented.
That's my guess,
Yeah. But we never see them. It feels a little off, slightly, to me that Worf is willing to claim Alexander now because it's now ties him to the dishonor. But at the same time, this boy would be an orphan if Worf didn't claim him.
Right.
And sending him to his family means he's not living within the Klingon Empire, so the dishonor is not really going to affect him like it would his brother, Worf's brother, That moment, also, and you guys have helped as well discussing it, but that vindicated for me the Kalar's death, and that I really liked that moment he had with him. And then just the fact that he was like, you know what? I can't leave here. Yeah. Kalar was right. I can't leave here. And then when he's like, but my parents are going to take care of you. I'm like, his parents are the best. And again, that's just another connection. It's like, yeah, that makes total sense. They're good. They've done it before. They miss Worf, and they obviously,
they'd be like, "What? Yeah, what can you get here?" I'm guessing, and so I thought that gave it heft and connection for me, and yeah. So that helped validate. Might be a better word rather than vindicate, because Worf was doing all the vindicating.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Worf's parents interact more with Alexander and see his mother is going to be in one more episode when she brings Alexander to the Enterprise, but we only see his father that once, unfortunately. I wish we could see more of his parents.
So going back to Worf's decision, well, he acknowledged that he and his brother are going to try to challenge this as they can.
Yeah.
But it's, it might not be tomorrow, but the intent is going to be there. So I thought that was also part of that decision to claim his son, because he knew this wasn't the end anymore. This wasn't like his honor is going to be disgraced forever.
Yeah. Fashion.
I started out thinking I was just going to have one K'Ehleyr fashion note, and then I was just like, oh yeah, that's right, she's going to look great. So yeah, I liked her business suit. I'll call it a business suit. And then, she went into the next outfit, which again was kind of reminiscent of the last time. And then I remembered, the last episode she was on, I think we all went on, or I know I went on about all her different looks, which was great. Bill T. Share kind of special, all the outfits she had. And then we may have talked about this last time too. Her teeth.
Did you say teeth?
Her teeth.
The human part of her has the teeth.
Yeah, exactly. She has the human teeth, which. And I was like, yeah, that looks really good. But then I remembered the other Klingon women. I've like not having human teeth hasn't stopped me from being very, very attracted to them. I
agree, but I prefer the human teeth.
Yeah,
that's probably why she's the most attractive of the Klingon women.
I agree.
We get to see all the kids in outfits at the school, so we saw what kids are wearing on the Enterprise D. They were all just layered clothing of different types. It looked similar to other leisure wear we've seen. Alexander was more of a one-piece bodysuit, but then of course the Klingons had the traditional garb for the most part, which suited them. I like that Drake came with the sash already on of like, I'm going to be the new chancellor, and he had to take it off later. This episode was directed by Jonathan Frakes. You may have heard.
Oh,
yep,
yeah, we've talked about him a few times. William Riker himself. It was written by, the story's by 3 people, written by 4 people. So it had a lot of writers touching this.
Yeah.
The story was by Drew Dean, who wrote this, as well as a story by credit for Sins of the Father, the earlier Worf Duras episode.
Yeah.
And then both story by and teleplay by Thomas Perry and Joe Perry. For Joe, this is Joe's only Trek credit. More of a writer for Simon & Simon, it looks like. Huh. And for Thomas, same thing. Simon & Simon writer, only Trek credit. And then the other 2 teleplay by goes to Raul D. Moore and Braden Braga, our stalwarts who are going to write the first couple films and everything, and the series finale. So it had some major Trek writers involved, as well as I like that they brought back the writers from the first the earlier part of the story, so there was some continuity there.
I'm just amazed there were writers for Simon & Simon did anything else.
Because why would they need to? That was their magnum opus, and that's just done.
I don't think I ever actually watched an episode of Simon & Simon, but I did watch The Greatest Event in Television History when Adam Scott and I'm trying to think who played the other Simon in that one. I can't remember.
I don't.
John Hamm.
John Hamm.
Yep.
Yeah, that was great.
I love those. Anyway, the best Simon & Simon by far.
Alternate episodes?
Mine is if the boy, in mine, the boy's a girl, and eventually they grow up, and K'Ehleyr doesn't die. So this is a very alternate timeline, and they grow up to be the K'Ehleyr girls, and it's very Gilmore Girls, except it's set in the Klingon universe, and they're very quippy, because just K'Ehleyr is very quippy and funny, and they'd go and have dinner with her they go to Earth and have dinner with Worf's parents or whatever, and just like they do, the Gilmore Girls go and hang with their grandparents, whatever. Rory's her parent and grandparents. So as you can tell, we're into season 6 of Colleen's rewatch of the Gilmore Girls. So, or Gilmore Girls. Anyway, so that is my alternate episode.
Mine is, I guess, Alexander Rozhenko, My name is Alexander Rosenko. That would make a terrible musical. I'm not going to go into that.
Maybe.
He wasn't quite he was a bastard, but he wasn't a son of a whore, because Kalar is not a whore. Wipe that mouth out. And he wasn't an orphan, because Worf survived. So,
Well, I mean, I have an explanation for Kalar's defeat, and that is that Duras had the high ground.
High ground.
Yes.
I knew you were going to say that. Just background. Okay, how annoying was Wesley on a scale of 1 to 10?
1.
Give him a 1. Back to
Agreed.
1.
Yeah, I forgot he was even in this episode, but he
like
was.
a line or two.
Yeah. Who was your annoyance of the episode?
It's an easy one, or it's a lazy one, but Duras.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to get somebody else, but I couldn't latch on to anybody.
The fact that he killed Kalar automatically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole get him out of this room thing. Just.
Were you surprised they killed Duras? Like, the bad guy usually gets away with it in these political.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was surprised by both deaths.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was gonna be like one per, if that, and even just.
And Kimpek, 3 returning Klingon characters were murdered. Crush of Trek.
This is really tough for me. Coming off of last week, I think last season Kalar was on. I think either she was my crush for a limited time.
Yep, 1 episode.
Yeah, because I don't remember who'd I dump her for.
Nagel in Peak Performance.
Wow.
Very memorable.
Clearly, because I don't remember.
I'm looking her up right now. She was an ensign, and she was blonde.
Okay. Oh, yeah. That explains it. Yeah, she was on the other ship with the. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So, I feel like as much as I love her and like she's my favorite, if she'd been on a Seinfeld episode, then Kalar would definitely win. But I'm sticking with Ashara. But it was
really.
It was very difficult. To say it kept me up at night would just be too obvious a thing to say. So I just said it.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going Kalar all the way.
Yeah.
I like Tashara, but I don't think there's much contest. I know Keith's going Gowron because of the bug eyes.
Perhaps. No, but I'm going with Kalar because she puts the lar in Kalar.
And Salar.
That too. I just don't understand why she wasn't like just a superstar or something. Just
that actress deserved more.
Yeah,
she could have easily been a series regular. Like if for whatever reason Deanna Troi wasn't working out, I could see her filling a similar role on the ship.
Yeah,
being like a diplomat.
I mean, like Crusher every once in a while it gets quippy, and Deanna's can be fun and all that. But like, and Guinan, of course, is Whoopi's Whoopi. She's great.
Yeah,
but I would love to have Kalar's character was just so much fun to me, and she almost seems just like the ideal crew member who's a woman in the 24th century. But
the Orville would have found room to keep her.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
All right. So I started thinking about that during this episode and wondering, would she have been too much? I mean, the character, it's like, I think some of the appeal is that she was used so sparingly that it was just like it's like a big event having her there just every moment. Just seems like it has something. And I wonder if it would have been as strong if the character persisted for like a couple of seasons, just like every episode. But I was even meaning more just the actress herself. I feel like she deserved more. Yeah. I think notoriety.
I feel like when we get Ensign Rowe, that's kind of the closest Next Gen gets to a regular personality like that. I'm looking forward to that. That's Michelle Forbes. Looking forward to her joining the cast. Ranking the episode. Let's start nearish the top. Not all the way at the top. Best of Both Worlds, Part 2. Better or worse?
I came out of this thinking immediately that I wanted it at number 1, honestly, but I just, it's hard for me to remember the other things well enough.
Best of Both Worlds, number 2. So I didn't start much below number 1.
I could go either way with it. You could persuade me to go either way.
I want it up. Sounds like Keith wants it above.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make the strong losing argument I made last week because I don't have one here. I think I'm fine with that. I think this one was really good.
Well, number one right now is family.
And that's when they went back to Earth, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Worf's parents, Picard's family.
Yeah.
I don't think this quite hits that.
No.
I think it does, but
I think it's close, but I think part of why I like that more is the balance of all the different characters, whereas this was mainly a Worf Klingon episode.
yeah,
But I love the Klingon episodes, and this was a really good episode.
And there's number 4 brothers.
Yes.
Yeah. Brothers got a hug.
So I think we're going number 2 with it.
I think so.
sigh.
Sorry, Steve.
Yeah, just the Gowron Duras stuff. It was so strong.
We'll get more Gowron, and while we have lost Duras, we do have the Duras sisters coming up.
Yes.
Ooh, now you got me interested. Now I'm in.
They're reoccurring as well, and they were in one of the films.
I think you guys mentioned them before, so yeah.
Yeah, I think you'll like them.
Yeah.
He might hate them, but he'll like hating them.
Right.
Maybe they'll fill the Kalar-sized hole in my heart.
No.
They'll
There are
fill,
2 of them, so that helps.
Yeah.
they'll fill the Duras-sized hole, certainly.
Oh, easily. Their boobs fill the Duras size. They're welling down up top.
God, I
And
see.
they, Klingons, they like to show the cleavage.
That's true. This is true.
Next week, Future Imperfect. Riker awakens 16 years after an away mission where he contracted a disease which destroyed his memory back to the point of infection. I'm going to leave it there because the rest of the IMDb
just tells you what
description is,
happened.
it's a dumb
That
spoiler.
gave away a lot right there, I think. But
What?
that description, I mean, I feel like there was a decent sized puzzle before they got to that explanation.
That he awakened 16 years after a mission where his disease has destroyed his memory?
Yes.
I think that's pretty early on.
Yeah.
The what I objected to, and I guess I am going to say it now, is the rest of the IMDb description is, or so he's told, which I think is a ridiculous spoiler. That's the part that takes forever to get to.
Yeah.
So come back next week. I mean, obviously, I think at this point, nobody believed that Riker is actually, we're going to skip 16 years. So, but come back next week. We'll talk Future Imperfect and Dr. Crusher.
Future Imperfect an actual verb tense?
Yeah.
I was
Maybe.
going,
Future
no, I was
Perfect
going
is-
just a gerund, right? I guess I should have researched that before. Oh, I got till next week. All right, you know what? I'll research it between now and next week.
There we go. Until then, live long. Unlike Kalar.
Spay and neuter your cats and dogs
But only if you have the high ground.
and prosper.
It's All Been Done presents.
Who's got the time?